Hello, my name is Raymond Karczewski. The subject I would like to speak to you of tonight is very important to all of us. It goes to the very heart of freedom here in America. The subject is entitled The End of Slavery in America and the Return to Sovereignty. A simple formula. It arises from the comments made to my Facebook account by a man named Neil Ashton. In it, he says the only way out of this is to leave the system we are all currently controlled by. A revolution is not the way, as that will only replace the system we have with another system. This system has been built over centuries, and it will take a very long time to demolish. Make a start, any way you can. You will not get anywhere until you take that first step. My response to Neil was thus: the solution for Americans to follow is thus. It has worked for me. First, the American people must become aware that they have been conned by their own satanically ruled government and its courts. Let each sovereign man, woman, understand that God's law, natural law, common law, all trump lesser, corporate, contract, and administrative law, the present law now used to tyrannize the American sovereign people, those living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient natural men and women who are actually the true lawmakers, the creators of government, and beyond the reach of private corporate courts, which require their consent or submission. Number 1. Let each man or woman return to their sovereignty by common law copyrighting one's name, thereby distinguishing and separating the fictional juristic entity whose name is spelled in all capital letters, created by government through birth certification, from oneself, the actual, living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient, natural man or woman. 2. Rescind one's 14th Amendment citizen status, and all other adhesion contracts presumed to exist with the federal, state, and local corporate private governments, which applies to and were imposed upon the juristic person by government on the basis that there existed no full disclosure of all the terms of the adhesion contracts at the time the contracts were imposed upon the American people. 3. Demand that they, the courts, follow the law. Cruden versus Neal. 2. NC 338, parentheses, 1796, close parentheses, 2, SE 70, which focuses upon natural law and trumps corporate administrative rules, regulations, and legislation which do not apply to non-corporate natural people who stand in common law and in natural, legal, full capacity as one of the sovereign people. Cruden versus Neal states, there every man is independent of all laws, except those prescribed by nature. He is not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow men without his consent. Therein lies the present tyrannical government con. The corrupt and deceptive courts operate on the legal presumption that all living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient natural men act as a surety or underwriter for all debts incurred by the juristic person. By separating the two entities, the fictional juristic person, over whom the government does have jurisdiction, and the living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient natural man, over whom the government does not have jurisdiction, unless the latter consents to granting jurisdiction to the government by not rebutting the court's legal presumption of 14th Amendment status, or by unconscious giving of consent to belonging to and being subject to the corporate government and their corporate rules, regulations, policies, which are called law, but are not law. Such is the nature of converting a sovereign man into a slave. It is all done by consent. Demand the fictional court, which is asserting jurisdiction over you, the living man or woman of the sovereign people, prove in writing, as their own law requires them to do, that such law or such court does in fact have jurisdiction over you, the living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient natural man of the sovereign people. They will not answer the questions, as they have not answered it in my two cases for the last 8 years, even though the courts convicted the juristic person in both cases. 02 CR 0617 and 03 CR 0170, after first threatening me with 35 to 40 years in prison. They threw me out of jail when I refused to accept their offer of contract at the time of sentencing. The basis for such refusal was that they clearly failed to prove jurisdiction over this living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient, natural man. Face it, folks, the tradition of the present-day judiciary is descendant from the sons of Satan, Jesus referred to as lawyers, judges, and money changers of his time, those responsible for stringing him up. Isn't it time we got beyond the satanic spells they have cast upon blind believing, undiscerning sheeple? Thank you for listening.